Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Not much, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It keeps sneaking closer to the start of basketball season. NFL started, and at the beginning of the NFL season, just to piss off people, I like to post how many days it is until the NBA actually starts on the opening day of the NFL, just to see the reactions of people who hate the NBA, and then to make sure I make a note of who hates the NBA so I don't talk to them.
Wait, people who follow you who don't like the NBA?
They're friends. So they follow me on actual like social media instead of my basketball social media.
I was gonna say. I mean, I don't have actual friends who don't like basketball, so I wouldn't know. Anything about that.
It's a burden. It's a shame, and I just basically tell them they're wrong, and then I tell them how the NFL's ratings are going down, and how people don't really want to see other human beings giving each other concussions, so their life's shortened. But to each their own.
I mean, I just learned something in the 2 seconds I was waiting for you to start talking. So I mean, it's been a good day for me. So I won't slag anyone off.
What did you learn?
All right. So do you know what college Malcolm Delaney played basketball for?
This is what you were doing? You were looking up Malcolm Delaney's alma mater?
Okay, so here's what I did. Okay, I looked up the Atlanta Hawks roster, who we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, on Basketball Reference. Okay? So I want you to tell me what college he played basketball for. It's in the ACC.
It doesn't help because all those conferences moved around. Maryland?
Close. It's not Virginia, but it's Virginia
Tech.
So you want to know what their real name is on Basketball Reference? Now this is what I learned.
Okay.
I always thought they were just Virginia Tech. So their real name is Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University.
No, that can't be right.
Dude, it says it on Basketball Reference, and I thought it was fake. And I was like,
sure he didn't play for...
I was like, what school is this? And I clicked on it, and it's Virginia Tech, dude. It just seriously Virginia Tech. That is their official name, apparently.
Huh, I'm going to have to go... Yeah, I'm at their Wikipedia. This is correct. This is breaking news, everyone.
See, so I told you, I learned something in the 30 seconds before you started talking. I learned something.
That sounds like it was named by a guy who was like, we got to make this sound real smart. we got to make this university sound even better than all these other universities. Columbia, who cares? Harvard, who cares? Virginia, Polytechnic Institute and State University? It's both.
So it's not only an institute, but a state university as well. I mean, it's two things in one, man. Everyone loves that.
Ever dreamed in Blacksburg, Virginia, where do not know where that is, but I briefly enjoyed Virginia Tech's some of those years where they do a lot of trick plays in college football, and they're entertaining to watch.
The Michael and Marcus Vick show, they were fun then.
God, that was great. That's about the only time I am actually finding myself watching a little bit more college football than usual, which is not saying a lot, but college football is just a little bit more entertaining than to me is becoming a little bit more entertaining than the NFL. And I'll throw it out there. That's a bad take, but I like to see plays break open because people are incompetent. When two really great football teams go at each other, it's just like people crashing into each other, and then one good play every 20 to 30 minutes.
I also like college football in this more in the sense that, like, sometimes things happen that you just feel like shouldn't happen. Like at the professional level, like even the worst team, like when they beat someone, you're like, well, okay, I could understand that. Like, there's no like super surprises, but like every year in college football, you have a team that you're like, there's no way those guys are winning, and then they'll beat someone who's like in the top 5, and you're like, that did not seem possible.
How did that even happen? And then there's all, I just enjoyed the trick plays. They entertained me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit harder to follow, and since there's a lot more teams, but other than that, like, I'm a fan of college football.
So that is far too much football talk for one podcast. So let's get right back into our team previews. If you've been listening, you would know that we're about halfway through the league in our fantasy team previews for the year, but we took a little break to talk to our good friend Mark Roberts about his projections, and I would highly recommend going and listening to that podcast, which was the one right before this one, and going and checking out Mark's projections on #basketball.com. I thought that was a really good episode.
And I will say that it was the best one I've ever done because I probably talked the least amount I've ever talked. And that was good because that's probably the worst thing about the show.
Yeah, that is how I gauge the quality of a show, the amount of time you talk. So let's get right into it. We're going to go. I mean, we've been talking about tire fires. This is like the really just shady alley in tire fire land. These are going to be the worst of the worst. We might throw in a good team just to like cleanse ourselves from talking about these next two teams. And we're going to start with the Atlanta Hawks. Just a brutal looking starting lineup. Their off season, they lost. Who didn't they lose? They lost Tim Hardaway Jr. hilariously to the Knicks. They traded Dwight Howard away to the Hornets, which was probably a pretty good idea. They lost Paul Millsap to the Nuggets. They lost Thabo Sefolosha, who likes to make appearance on standard league teams. He went to the Jazz. Oof, I mean, they turned around and added Luke Babbitt, Dwayne Dedman, Miles Plumlee, and Marco Bellinelli came over in the trade with Dwight Howard, which was kind of a sad get back for someone like Dwight Howard. And they drafted John Collins. And so not a terribly fun team if you're a fan of that team. Not a terribly fun season to be looking forward to. So what is the most interesting thing on the Atlanta Hawks next year?
Well, I mean, they obviously have one pretty interesting player, and we already had a minor disagreement on him, I think, in a previous show. But, I mean, I think the most interesting thing overall is that there's going to be some sneaky value on this team, I think, because someone's got to play, and when there's a lot of bad guys, I mean, there's kind of two ways that it happens. Either, like, a bunch of guys get a little bit of minutes, or the coach just kind of says, screw it, and gives one guy a ton of minutes. And I'm hoping for that option, obviously, because then someone will have some nice value who may not be the greatest basketball player in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the way to look at a team like this, where, quite frankly, a lot of casual players, casual NBA fans, probably don't know a majority of the people on the starting lineup. And that is prime time for picking someone in a late round who is going to play starters minutes, who is going to bring back much higher value than where you draft him. And that is the benefit of having a really, really crappy Atlanta Hawks team.
I'm with you there.
So let's go look at speaking of, let's make sure I know what the starting lineup actually is. I don't think we are 100% certain on who is going to be, how the rotation is going to go, and who's even going to be the starters for this team. But I think we can make at least a couple very intelligent guesses. That obviously Dennis Schroeder being the name that everyone probably does know on this team, being guaranteed the starting point guard.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the previous show that I think I'm a little bit higher on Schroeder than you are. I just think Schroeder's going to get big minutes, and he's going to get a lot of points, and he's going to always have the ball in his hands. So that's going to equal some assists, and steals aren't bad. He's going to hit you 1.5 3-pointers probably. He's going to shoot a good free throw percentage on some all right attempts. So, I mean, I'm a fan of Schroeder, especially where I think he's going to go. I think he's going to go probably somewhere around pick 50, and I think he's probably like a top 35, top 40 player. So I think there's going to be a little bit of value in him.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that he's probably going to go around 50. Other than that, I'm not terribly excited about Dennis Schroeder. I think a lot of people are, and rightfully so. He's going to get a lot of minutes because there really is no one to give those minutes to. And he does have the ability to really score at will at some points. But that was on a team that had the lanes. Well, Howard clogged the lane quite a bit, but Millsap really, really helped a lot when it comes to opening up driving lanes for Dennis Schroeder. But now there is no Paul Millsap to pass it to. There is no Dwight Howard to run pick and rolls with. There's really nothing exciting about the rest of this squad. Everything is going to be on Dennis Schroeder's shoulders. That's a 2017 NBA tongue twister, the Dennis Schroeder shoulders. And I think it's going to be really easy for teams to just go, all right, let's just double Schroeder every time he runs a pick and roll and make someone else beat us because the rest of this team sucks. Dennis Schroeder is really the only starting talent that we know of, at least on this team. They do have a couple young guys that could be interesting, but I just think he's going to be overwhelmed. I'm not sure he's ready for basically to be the primary scorer and leader of this team. The usage is going to be there, right? But I think those percentages are going to be worse than people think. His field goal percentage is going to be worse than people think, and he doesn't really get in his steals are lower than I'd like for a guy that I would take in the 4th round. And so overall, I think people are going to reach for Dennis Schroeder, and I wouldn't.
So here's how I'm kind of looking at this, and I'm with you that the field goal percentage thing is going to be bad because there's not a lot of people to pass to. So how many people in the league last year scored more than 20 points a game?
Oh, well, you always ask me these questions all the time.
I'm trying to increase your basketball knowledge, Mike. That's what I do here.
I'm going to guess over 20 points a game.
Yes.
If I think about how leagues are drafted, I'm going to go with 35.
You are pretty good at this. 33.
Hey,
okay.
Look at that.
So
I'm impressed.
I don't think there's a way that Schroeder is not going to shoot himself into 20 points a game. It could be on a very bad percentage, but I mean, who's going to take the shots away from this kid?
But I think that's the difference, right? So you're right. He what did he average last year? I'm gonna have to go look. He averaged 18 points a game.
17.9, which was 45th in the league.
But let's go look at the rest of at what he did, right? He shot 15 points a game to get 18, or 15 shots a game to get 18 points. He turned over the ball 3 times a game. It's definitely going to go up. His steals were under 1. That doesn't bode well. He's going to hover around 1 this year. His assists were 6.4. I think he's going to have the ball in his hand a little bit more, but he's got worse people to pass to, so let's call that a wash. He gets 3 rebounds a game, which is okay for a guard. 1.3 3-pointers is bad for a guard. He still hasn't developed that outside shot, and just based on his stats last year, unless he is young enough to, take a leap, and he's going to have the opportunity to take a leap. He's only 24. Without him approaching 2 3-pointers a game, which, perhaps they make him shoot more 3-pointers this year just for the hell of it, I'm not super excited to pick this guy up in the 4th round when there are plenty of good guards laying around.
Oh, and I'm with you, and maybe that's where it happens, is that there's always someone that you like a little bit better around him. But I mean, if you look at the projections on #basketball, Mark's grade projections, he has them coming out. If you punt turnovers, which turnovers are going to be high,
which you should be putting turnovers in head-to-head all the time,
right? And so if you're playing in a 9-cat roto, I can see why he's not that sexy, because those turnovers are not going to be good. But in a head-to-head league, I mean, he has him ranked 33rd at 19 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.1 steals, 0.2 blocks, 1.5 3-pointers made, 44%, and 85. Now, I mean, we can take issue with some of those. I think the points are going to be a little higher. I could see the rebounds, assists, and steals all being a little bit lower. And I can see the percentages being a little bit lower. So, I mean, but I still think he's a top 50 guy, and I think he's going to be picked somewhere around there. So,
all right, let me throw some names. Let me throw some names at you. Who would you rather have? We're playing the official. Who would you rather have? Because this is how we gauge draft picks during a fantasy basketball draft 2017 game.
Wow, all that in one sentence.
It's a good name. It's a good name. I worked on that for a very long time. All right. Who would you rather have? Eric Bledsoe or Dennis Schroeder?
Probably Schroeder's because I think he can stay a lot more healthy. But if it's a shallow league, I'm probably taking Bledsoe. So if it's a deeper league, I'd like Schroeder. If it's a shallow league, I'd like Bledsoe. Does that make sense? In the sense that if there's somebody on the waiver wire to pick up, I think I'd rather have Bledsoe. But if there's nobody on the waiver wire to pick up, I think I want Schroeder because I feel a bit better about him staying healthy.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say explain your logic, but you did. So you're just saying, like, in the event that Eric Bledsoe, who I think is going to be fairly healthy this year, he sat out the last half of the last couple months simply because the Phoenix Suns were trying to tank.
Are they going to be better?
Are the Phoenix Suns going to be better? I think theoretically they have to be.
But I think their conference is also better. So I think they're at the same spot. I think they lose as many games or just...
I would be shocked if Eric Bledsoe is on the Suns by the end of the year. Hot take. Not that hot a take.
Okay, and that's a possibility too. I guess my point is in a 16-team league, and that's always a little bit scary too, right? Is if they get traded,
where is he going to actually go?
Right, and he could be in a spot.
Bledsoe's a starting point guard in this league. I have no idea why he would be traded to be the backup for somebody.
But most teams that are competing for a playoff spot have another good starting point guard. So he could end up playing some 2 and get his minutes reduced a little bit to closer to 30 instead of 32 or 33, and I mean that's going to hurt his value.
Okay, well I disagree. The answer is Eric Bledsoe. Who would you rather have, Dennis Schroeder or Kemba Walker?
Oh, definitely Kemba Walker.
Dennis Schroeder or CJ McCollum?
McCollum.
Jrue Holiday or Dennis Schroeder?
Jrue Holiday's another guy I get a little bit antsy about just because of the injuries. So I think I'll stick with my same answer in the sense that if it's a shallow league, probably Jrue Holiday. If it's a deeper league, probably Dennis Schroeder.
D'Angelo Russell or Dennis Schroeder?
Schroeder there. I'm a little bit antsy about that situation, although I think Russell's a decent 2 guard.
I think to me those are where I'm kind of saying I would take either. So I'm dropping Dennis Schroeder down past Jrue Holiday, way past Eric Bledsoe, down into really the bottom of the top 50.
I mean, and that's fine, and I think that's about where he's getting picked. So I mean, I think you're still in the ballpark with where he's getting picked. And
would you consider Elfrid Payton?
No, I'm definitely going Schroeder there. Although Payton is good in the right punt strategy. I mean, if you're building the team and had to punt, I mean, there are situations where Payton could be more valuable. If we're looking at most of the categories or all the categories, I think I'm taking Schroeder. Here's what I guess I'll say about it. Okay, at pick 50 or 55, where I think he's getting picked, he has some upside to take a leap and get better. There are some players in that range, like, for example, a Serge Ibaka type. Like, is Serge Ibaka going to be any better than pick 50? Like, you're picking him at where he's going to be at. So, I mean, there's some value in that, I guess. There's also some variance that he gets maybe worse than 50 in the sense that he bloats his turnovers and he gets benched and is generally a knucklehead like he was at points last season, and he's like number 60 or 70.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I think a lot of people, this is one of those you're going to hear about it. Someone's going to write about it in a sleeper column, like Dennis Schroeder's real sleeper. He's the only guy on the team. He's the only one who could score. And I think it's going to be pretty hard for Dennis Schroeder to carry a team on his back. I don't know if I don't think he's going to take an Isaiah Thomas type leap this year. But if you're saying he has the potential, that is correct. He does have the potential. He's only 24, but I'm not reaching for him at all.
In my projections, he's shooting closer to 42% than 44.
Fair enough. Let's we spent a lot of time on Dennis Schroeder simply because that's the person you should probably spend the most time talking about on this team. Let's venture into looking at the rest of this team if we dare.
Anyone else you want in a standard league?
I think so, actually. And I think so, and this is why, because someone is going to play 30 plus minutes on this team. And the two guys I think who are going to play starters minutes, which I would say 85% of the time, if you're playing over 30 minutes a game, you are standard league relevant. There are obviously exceptions, but
Well, that number might even be a little higher, but yes, there are definitely guys who can play 48 minutes and still produce nothing. I don't know how it's possible, but there are guys who do it.
There are. His name is Doug McDermott, and so I'm interested in Kent Bazemore, and I'm interested in Taurean Prince. Those are the two, I think, big names on this squad that should be considered in your standard league draft. And I think you make an argument of a few more people, but let's focus on these two guys for now. Taurean Prince is the one that everyone's going to also kind of look at. He's 23 years old. What is he capable of? He had a few flashes of kind of an interesting fantasy game last year. What do you feel about Taurean Prince?
I like the game in the sense that the block and the steal could be 1-1 or somewhere abouts. So I like that. I think the field goal percentage is going to be poor. I'm not in love with him. I think that he might go a little higher than I want him to go, which is in a standard league, I want him to kind of be my last pick or maybe my second to last pick. And I think he might get pushed up closer to that number 100 range just because I think he's going to be kind of a trendy guy that, I mean, I'm already hearing the buzz about Taurean Prince, and I'm not sure I'm hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I think if you're in a league with a little bit some of the sharps, some of the people who know what they're doing, Taurean Prince is going to be one of those guys. If you're in a casual league, everyone's going to be talking about Dennis Schroeder. In a serious league, people are going to be talking about Taurean Prince because Dennis Schroeder everyone's should already know who the hell that is. I like the fact that his role is pretty much set here. I don't know why. I mean, they don't really have anything else to do. I don't know how they would end up playing anyone else over him. He's going to play 30 plus minutes a game, and that block steal. Once you approach a 1-1 in block and steals, you're an interesting fantasy candidate. I think he has a potential to be a top 100 player this year. And some people have him ranked a little bit better, and I don't think I'm that high on him because without the ability for him to hit more shots or at least shots at a higher clip, his percentages are bad. And that's a little bit depressing. And to make up for that, he's not really doing anything else exciting. That 1-1 is pretty great, but I would say I'd compare him to maybe a little bit of potentially Mo Harkless.
We both know me a big fan of Mo Harkless.
And we like Mo Harkless. And so if I kind of like Mo Harkless, why wouldn't I like Taurean Prince?
Are we sure that he's going to get these huge minutes? Are we sure?
I'm about 75% positive.
Who played small forward last year for the Hawks that was such a great player?
Thabo Sefolosha. I don't know. Who was it? Nobody?
It was Thabo Sefolosha, played some minutes there. I mean, I'm trying to see here. Got 25.7 a game. They played some Kyle Korver when he was there. They played some Kent Bazemore. They played maybe some Tim Hardaway. I'm not sure who all here, but are these names sounding fantastic?
Other than my secret love for Kyle Korver and his beautiful hair.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyle Korver was traded to the Cavs at some point, right?
Yeah, none of those guys sound great.
So, how many minutes a game did Taurean Prince get last year? Behind that great.
But I think you just made my point. All those people are gone. So yeah, he didn't play over those people, but now he's the only person they have to play.
Well, they got Bazemore still. They got Bellinelli, who's going to get some minutes. I don't know about this DeAndre Bembry fella, but he's there. I could see him playing Ilyasova or Babbitt. I mean, these are the same kind of names I'm just talking about. They're not inspiring, but they're NBA players.
Sure, and I think Tarion Prince is also probably an NBA
But
player
he
as
played
well.
16.6 minutes a
I
game
don't.
last year.
I honestly don't. I think that's incompetence in the Atlanta in the Atlanta front office and the Atlanta locker room.
So
This guy,
it got better with the no one they hired.
no, this guy got better fantasy value simply because they don't have. They're not going to play. They're not going to play DeAndre Bembry more minutes than Tarion Prince.
I guess my point is, and
They're
I
not going to
think
make. They're not going to play Marco Bellinelli more minutes than Tarion Prince. There's
I'm
not
with
enough
you,
minutes to go around.
but to say 30, I think is a stretch. I'm looking more at like 28, 27, 26, just because I mean they only gave him 16 minutes last year, and there wasn't anyone that was that great.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I disagree. I just think there's not enough minutes. There's not enough players to give minutes to, and by default, Tarion Prince is going to have to play 30 minutes a game.
How many games last year do you think he even got 25 minutes?
Well, he really didn't even start playing till after January, if I remember correctly. I would only guess maybe a handful, like 15, 10, not like barely, hardly any.
He got 17 games over 25 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Here were now I'm assuming there were injuries involved and forget me for not remembering because it was many months ago. Okay, I'll read you the last 5 games of their season. Okay, he got 24, 22, 25, 25, and then he got 40 in an overtime game. So even at the end of last year, like they just seemed stuck at like 25, even once Korver and them were gone.
But here are the players that they were giving minutes to. Tim Hardaway.
Dwight Howard. Do we think Tim Hardaway is great? I mean, Taurean Prince and Dwight Howard don't play the same positions. They weren't given the minutes for him.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. Kyle Korver.
Well, they weren't giving him to Kyle Korver because he played for Cleveland at that point.
Well, at the end of the year, I'm kind of looking earlier in the year.
At the beginning of the year, he wasn't even playing half the time. He was inactive for games. He was playing 12 minutes, 16 minutes, 18 minutes.
Their choices, they moved Kent Bazemore, who we should probably talk about, to the 3, and they play Marco Bellinelli at the 2. Or they move Kent Bazemore to the 2 and play Tarion Prince at the 3.
I'll read you this lineup, okay? This was from one of their very last games of the season, okay? They were playing the Pacers, who are also a playoff team.
I think it's a little disingenuous to read the last game of the season when this team obviously wanted a high draft pick. They were tanking.
Okay, so what game you want me to read? I mean, any of these games. Like, if you're tanking, why would you not give a guy who's 22 years old huge minutes? They're giving him 25.
Because you're an idiot. Because the Atlanta Hawks
Ryan Kelly was getting 20 minutes in these games, and he was getting 25. But nothing changed. That's my point.
That's true.
So to say he's going to get 30 minutes a night, guaranteed, I think is a fool's errand.
All right, well, let's put that on the board. I'm taking the over. You're obviously taking the under.
No, and see, here's kind of where we differ too. I agree with you that he deserves it. I just don't think they're smart enough to give it to him. That's where we're having the disagreement. Is I just
don't know how they can't come to that conclusion, because they could have fooled themselves last year with being like, all right, let's move Tabo in, or let's play this lineup randomly. But this year they just can't. They can't. Tarion plus.
Oh, they can, because they'll play Muscala and those guys at the bigs and John Collins and Miles Plumlee, and they'll move someone like Ilyasova to the 3. That's how they'll do it.
That is probably what they'll do, because they're idiots. Let's talk about that front court. Is there anyone in this front court that you think is going to be standard league relevant?
Well, here I'll bring this point up, and it wasn't one I was going to actually bring up first, but I find this interesting. So Dwayne Dedmon ranks 139th in Mark's rankings in only 24 minutes a game if you punt turnovers. So 8 category league, basically. I think
there's a lot of people who play in bigger leagues who know that Dwayne Dedmon is a nice little stream when he's going to play extended minutes for the Spurs last year. So I kind of agree with the fact that Dwayne Dedmon is very interesting at the Probably not in a standard league draft, but maybe as a streamer in a standard league draft.
And maybe even in a 12-team league as the last guy you hold on to. So maybe not your last pick, but the last guy you hold on to if you're light in rebounds. I mean, he's projected to get 8.8 rebounds a game in 24 minutes. And I could easily see him getting 24 minutes on this Hawks team that doesn't have a ton of great options.
And then throw in, over a block, and his steals aren't really non-existent. They exist, and he's got a high field goal percentage. If he's really if he becomes like a solid to great option, starting to approach 30 minutes a game, he's definitely standard league relevant.
I'm with you there, and so that's
if you're punting something.
If you're punting, I mean, especially if free throws aren't great. He doesn't take a lot of attempts. Points, if you're punting points, he gets sexy.
Yeah, just throw then you should be 100% drafting if you're punting points and free throw percentage.
So the other interesting guys, John Collins and Ersan Ilyasova, I think, are the other two interesting guys other than Bazemore, and if we're talking front court.
You think John Collins is going to get enough minutes to be standard league relevant this year?
I think John Collins is going to take a typical rookie path.
Kind of in the end of the year, suddenly he's playing more minutes.
And suddenly, because we can both agree, I don't think this is a good team. So I think by the end, they might just be rolling out Collins and
whoever,
Taurean Prince and Schroeder, and just playing them 35 minutes a night and just saying, screw it. We're done. Well, they might trade away a guy like Ilyasova. And
speaking of suspicious minutes, a couple of years ago, Kent Bazemore looked like he possibly could have been a breakout player. And he regressed. He regressed back to his mean and had a pretty lackluster season last year. And the Atlanta Hawks started playing him less minutes. Now, like I've said before, there's not enough minutes to go around on this team. I don't know why Kent Bazemore would play 30 minutes, but like the previous argument, the Atlanta Hawks are pretty stupid, so who knows? At 30 minutes a game, is Kent Bazemore someone you would draft in a standard league draft? And would you even want him, even if you think he's standard league relevant?
Well, those are two different questions. Those are two different questions. At 30 minutes a game, yes, he's definitely standard league relevant. At 28 minutes a game in Mark's rankings, he is the 98th ranked player.
Okay.
So I would say he's standard league relevant even at 28 minutes a game, which I think it's safe to say that he gets that. Or thereabouts. He got 27 last year and about 28 the year before. So why would he not get right about there again? That just seems like where they're comfortable playing him is like 27, 28 minutes a game.
But you're looking at his ceiling.
Oh, yeah. And they're invested in this guy. They're not going to cut him. No one's going to want to trade for him, right? They gave him that big contract. He's 28 years old, so he's relatively in his prime. He's not going to get any better than he's been. He's not going to really get that much worse this season at 28, I don't think. I think you're looking at what you're looking at. Just take the last couple of years, and that's what he is.
Yeah, and I think because of that low ceiling, there's a lot more interesting. If you're just in a regular standard league, there's a lot more interesting players that you could try to grab with a higher upside, a higher ceiling. They might not meet that ceiling, but I'd rather take a chance with my final few picks than take old, steady 100th ranked player Kent Bazemore.
Oh yeah, and
if you're in a deeper league, then Kent Bazemore is actually quite an asset. But
right, and we talk about that a lot, right? He's kind of a deep league special.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Anyone else on this team for, I guess, keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, really deep leagues? We talked a bit about John Collins. He does look like he could play a decent amount of minutes even this year. Anyone else?
No. I don't really believe in any of the other young guys for anything other than a total flyer punt in a very deep dynasty league. I guess the guy would be DeAndre Bembry, but from what I've seen, I'm not loving the returns. He can't shoot free throws, which is always worrying to me for a small forward shooting guard type.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that his free throws are like almost non-existent.
And so, I just don't see those guys getting huge minutes. I mean, do you ever see a small forward who can't shoot free throws getting big minutes?
No, not only that, there's just really nothing intriguing about his fantasy game. Like I'm not seeing a one-on-one guy. I'm not seeing a guy who gets crazy stats for his position in kind of a like a crazy assists randomly or something like that. I just don't think there's anything to be excited about with him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this is kind of an uninspiring team in the sense, but
that's for sure.
But here's the thing that I'll say about it is they have been a team in the past that's like to chop and change the minutes. So going back to my original point, I don't know that they're going to give anyone big minutes. But if we see they're in the preseason, right, like his draft season's kind of ramping up, if we see, oh man, they're starting John Collins and they're giving him big minutes, then he becomes interesting, or anybody like that. They're kind of starting out of nowhere and they look like they're going to give him 30-some minutes. Other than that, this is kind of a team where there's maybe 2 or 3 guys owned in a standard league, and that's it.
Yeah, I think you're.
Maybe only one.
I think you're probably right. They're a good team to watch the waiver wire in case something weird happens. In case Marco Bellinelli starts hitting like 4 3-pointers a game for no reason, and everybody loses their mind on that team or something. But I'm just not excited about anybody on that team at all. It's I will give it a stamp of worst team ever of all time. For fantasy. No, dude, for fantasy.
There's worse. There's worse, man. There's gonna be worse. You prepare yourself. You buckle right in.
So speaking of possibly worse, this next team.
This one's worse. This one is worse.
The team that you've been waiting for. This team is not worse. On paper. I hope they are worse in real life. The team that you couldn't resist getting to, and I continued to put off. The Chicago Bulls.
The barf bag special.
Oh, God. I don't even know where to begin with this team. It starts in the front office, but I'm not going to get into you can goad me into a rant. I think you probably could, but I'm not going to get into it. We all know front office sucks. We all know that Fred Hoiberg sucks. But the most interesting thing, I think, on this team for me is does Dwayne Wade and Nico Mirotic play a large role in this offense where they could be kind of actually sleepers in a draft in a way? Or is this team the Atlanta Hawks 2.0?
Dwayne Wade is always a very interesting guy for fantasy. Especially now that he's going to be 36. He's probably only going to play like 28, 29, maybe 30 minutes a game. But I think in leagues with guys who don't know, he maybe goes a little bit too high sometimes because there's the name recognition of, oh, he's Dwayne Wade, he's a Hall of Famer. And like you get in leagues with sharps and like none of the guys want to touch him. And I mean, especially in a roto league, I think Dwayne Wade can have some good value in the sense that he usually puts up some good stats in the games that he plays.
And I think you hit the nail on the head in a roto league because you can't. People have been waiting for the last like 3 to 4 years for his knees to disintegrate, and they haven't. He played pretty well last year if you look at his stats when he played, and he also played quite a bit. I think more games than a lot of people had him pegged for. He only played 60 games, but those a lot of those missed games came there at the end of the season. He was on pace for a much higher game count until the end of the season, which obviously that's what you're calculating into your draft pick. I think Wade goes underdrafted most of the time in any league where people know what they're doing.
I'm with you.
Especially in roto, because the guy's a top 60 type player. He scores pretty well. He gets crazy blocks for a guard, and he's always good at just about everything.
After the season with the last big knee injury, what was that, 2013, 2014?
I think so.
I think he's gone undervalued those last 3 seasons in the sense that everyone, like you saying, they're like, oh, he got no news. He's going to play 20 games. It's like, I don't think that's the case. I mean,
yeah, per game, I think if you don't count turnovers, which we're not right now. Last year he finished 67th. The year before that, 47th. So he's still approaching 18 points a game. Getting a guy who scores 18 points a game in like the 8th round, that's pretty good.
yeah, and then I think there's times where he's there at like pick 100, pick 110.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people really, really sleep on him. And that's basically where I would, anything after round 9, I would pick up Dwayne Wade. Because Dwayne Wade, he's going to play. Because he's going to be selling himself to another team. Like the Chicago Bulls, unless you hear something else, and this is the problem, this is what we don't know, is that the Chicago Bulls could very well just go, you're going to sit the bench, and then you're going to take a pay cut, and then we will sell you to or we'll try to trade you, or we'll just buy you out and you're going to take a pay cut, and then you can go to whatever team you want. That could definitely happen.
It is a $23 million guarantee, though, isn't it? With like little incentive clauses. Am I wrong about that?
That sounds correct.
So, I mean, if you're him, do you maybe just go, that's fine, I'll just sit the bench?
And if you're the Bulls front office, which I know far too much about, you would let him, because he is that front office is so cheap. They're not and so petty that they would legitimately keep Dwayne Wade from playing on another team because they didn't want to pay his full salary for buying him out.
$23.8 million base salary.
Yeah, it was a really dumb contract.
So yeah, $23.8 million in the. I mean, if it's me, I mean, I get that he wants to play and he knows that the sun is setting on his career, right? I mean, he's gonna be 36. But I mean, at $23 million, man, I could see him maybe just sitting it out and saying, "No, thanks for the money." I mean, he opted in for the money. He knew they were gonna stink.
He 100% opted in for the money, and I don't blame him. Like, right on. If you want my bell curve, the most likely scenario is he's going to get bought out for somewhere around 15 to 18 million, and then he's going to go play off the bench in Cleveland. That's probably the most likely scenario. The second most likely scenario is that he plays for the Chicago Bulls for the rest of the season. And during the last 2 months, he basically is kind of a bench warmer or doesn't really even play at all. I don't think the Bulls, because they have such a bad – I mean, I don't think they are capable of self-reflection because they are so incompetent and there's so much nepotism there. I told you it wouldn't take long for me to get in a rant about how much I hate this team. I don't think they would make themselves look even worse. I don't think they're this stupid to make themselves look even worse to star players by forcing Dwayne Wade to sit the bench and not play. That would show a message to the rest of the league. We do not care about you as a player. And that would be such bad PR after the incredibly bad PR of the Jimmy Butler trade.
Yeah, and you got to look at it this way, too, in the sense that that's going to keep players away from coming to your franchise in future years. So if you ever want to be good, you don't want to kind of take that hit of, well, we know you're our best player, but we might just set you on the bench for no reason.
So, yeah, and for that reason, is Dwayne Wade someone you would take in those final rounds or after pick 100?
Here's the way I'm looking at it. I don't really see the scenario where he doesn't start the year on Chicago at this point. Like, why would you be – and I'll couch it this way. I guess once training camp starts and he shows up, why would you buy him out then? Like, if you're going to buy him out now.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to buy him out until later in the year. And my guess is when Zach LaVine is looking like he's coming back –
that's when they're going to do it.
That's right around when Dwayne Wade's going to move off.
So if I'm talking about a shallow league where I think there's a plentiful options on the bench, I mean on the waiver wire, I'm sorry. I mean, I might draft Dwayne Wade and hope he plays 28 minutes and is useful.
Yeah,
For me, because
and you know what? Look to trade him to a dope. I mean, if he starts playing well, he looks pretty good. Trade him to a moron who thinks Dwayne Wade's going to play the rest of the season like that, because Dwayne Wade you're getting about a half a season from. And in a head-to-head league, I would probably really stay away from that. But in a roto league, I'm interested.
Here's the veteran move, I think. Okay, so when is Zach LaVine supposed to come back? Are you privy to that information?
The real guesses, the real information that I get from people that I actually trust is January, February.
Okay, so that's a decent little window you got there. Okay, so Dwayne Wade starts playing good. Name a rookie starts playing bad that you're a fan of, right? That you think is going to eventually get some big minutes, whether that be. I mean, you're probably not going to do it for Ball and Fultz in a 1-year league, but maybe if they're not playing that much and they're stinking, but maybe it's Jonathan Isaac, right? The Magic are going to be bad. Eventually, Isaac's probably going to get some minutes. And I think like right around that time, like just before you think Dwayne Wade's going to get bought out, you might be able to swap Dwayne Wade for one of those rookies.
Right around, I was going to say right around when Dwayne Wade plays really well for the Christmas game. Chicago Bulls do not have a Christmas game for the first time, and I don't want to say because I don't remember, and it's a very long time.
Yeah, they got a very hard shafting on the schedule because
they got booted from the Christmas game.
You got booted from a lot of things. You only have like what? No TNT games.
One ESPN, one national game, ESPN against Minnesota.
So yeah, I think that could be a good play. Is like maybe Dennis Smith starts off the year bad. I mean, you know that people want to get rid of these rookies, right? When it gets to be December, January, and they're not playing, or if they are playing, they're playing horribly.
So I have a decent question. Zach LaVine maybe probably coming back in January, might be closer to February if the Bulls want to ease him into that, because allegedly future of the franchise. Also, they're the one thing the Bulls are savvy about is being incredibly cheap and figuring out ways they can pay less money for players. So a thought would be, since Zach LaVine needs a contract re-up, that they try to get that contract signed before he comes back, or they try to get that they try not to bring him back until much later in the season so his value decreases on the open market. Those are very valid things that the Chicago Bulls would 100% do because they're so petty. My question for you, after that long-winded rant, would you rather draft Dwayne Wade or Zach LaVine?
Oh, definitely Dwayne Wade, unless it's a roto league and I got some IR spots where I can stash Zach LaVine. I don't usually draft a player who's already hurt. And unless I've got like unlimited IR spots, then that gets a little bit different. But if I got like 1 or 2 IR spots, I don't like to draft guys who are already hurt, because the guys I did draft get hurt, and then I've got to drop someone anyway. So then I
get 2 hurt players.
Yeah. So then I wasted that draft pick, right? Because I got to throw one of them back. So I'm probably not going to draft Zach LaVine unless it's a very, very deep league. ACLs always worry me in the sense that I think a lot of guys start off real slow too. So even when he comes back, he might be playing 15, 20 minutes a game for the first couple weeks, and that's really not going to be that valuable. And he's going to slowly kind of ramp up into that, whatever he ends up by around 30 minutes, I would guess, because Fred Hoiberg's another one who doesn't like to play guys a whole ton of minutes. So I'm not on Zach LaVine to start the year for sure.
Do you think Zach LaVine should be drafted in a standard league, 12-team? Let's say.
No, I mean,
he's out half the season.
If the question is if he's healthy, then yeah, he should be. But if no, he shouldn't be now. I just don't see holding him. I mean, why hold a guy unless there's like a very strict games limit where you don't play your bench really? But I mean, what's the value when he comes back? That's my question. My ultimate question. It's a bad team.
My only rebuttal to that is, if you're
my worry is
in a roto league or you're in a deeper head-to-head league, then I would try to grab him late, simply because he could come back for your playoffs, or he could come back for the final press in a roto league. And in a roto league, you can just stash him on the bench. It's not that really that big of a deal.
Oh yeah, and that's a little bit different. My worry is, even in those leagues, is that they don't really have any incentive to play him huge minutes coming back from an ACL.
No, they do not.
And so maybe they just say they do a Nerlens Noel thing where it's like, oh, you're not playing back-to-backs at all, and we're going to limit you to 27 or 28 minutes a night. And then sure, Zach LaVine's still probably valuable in that league, but he's probably close to number 100. So then you waited all that time and you didn't really get that much out of it.
And he's also not a fantasy world beater. I mean, it's not like you're looking at a guy who's suddenly going to be, when he comes back, even and he starts playing, let's say this healthy, real healthy, they play him 34 minutes a game. Is he, top 50 player? Maybe?
Look at his stats from last year. He played 37 minutes a game.
Thank you, Tom Thibodeau.
Which is not happening again, right? No. That's just not. And sure, the stat line looks good and all right, but it's not like a top 50 player. He got less than a steal a game, 3 assists, 3.4 rebounds, almost 19 points, 2.6 3-pointers was nice. The percentages are all good, but it's just there's nothing flashy. This guy
he's a one-dimensional player. He's like a really, really crappy Bradley Beal. And I don't want a crappy Bradley Beal on my team. I don't want a guy who scores and shoots and that's it. And now Bradley Beal, he does stuff now. Bradley Beal is adding things to his game. Zach LaVine, after being hurt all this time, is not going to add anything to his game this year, or maybe even next year. He's probably been pushed back at least a couple of years in his development. So yeah, I think I'd stay away from outside of a deep league and roto leagues. Is there anyone on this team that you're interested in, standard league wise?
Well, for the most part, the starting point guard on every team should be drafted in a standard league. So who is the starting point guard for Chicago, Mike?
Well, Tyler, that would be point guard of the future, Chris Dunn.
So my question to you is Chris Dunn standard league relevant?
God. This might be the very first time a starting point guard in the NBA is not standard league relevant. Chris Dunn is going to get the full opportunity to prove that he is this is how sad this is. Not to prove that he's good, to prove that he can stay on the court. And that's how low this team has become. He's not a scorer. He can't shoot. I really do like his intangibles. He could be a steal and a block kind of guy. In fact, he could approach a couple steals a game because
that's where
his defense
really relevant, right there.
Yes. And if he's dishing out 6 assists a game and he's approaching 2 steals a game and scoring over 10 points,
a crappy man's Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, he's barely standard league relevant at that point. And his percentage, if he can't learn how to shoot over 40%, his percentages are going to kill you. Also, his free throws are shit. Also, he'll probably turn the ball over a lot. Also, he can't shoot threes. He still might not be standard league relevant, but anyone who's getting close to 2 steals a game, and that's just theoretical. If he's at 1.4 steals a game and a half a block, no, I don't think he's standard league relevant.
I don't like to look at Summer League for much, but here's what I've learned from watching Summer League ever since they started putting all the games on. I catch quite a few. Here's the thing I've learned. If you look bad or non-existent in the Summer League, especially as a guard, because there's a lot of guard-heavy play in the Summer League, you're not an NBA starter that season at least. Now you might develop a lot and get better and eventually be an NBA starter. He looked like crap in the few Summer League games he played, I thought.
He didn't look good. But he was also playing next to Cameron, who looked like dog shit. So that made Chris Dunn look good.
Better by comparison, yes, but I just don't think he's an NBA point guard. He's maybe a guy who gets what he got last year, 15 minutes a game.
I think he's like a super trash at a super trash Marcus Smart on the best day.
All right, you cut out there a little bit, so I want to hear you repeat that.
He is a super trash Marcus Smart on a good day.
Wow, a super trash. What is that? Like a turd in a punch bowl?
Just dumpster shit. That's how bad he is. And hilariously, Cameron Payne is worse. Cameron Payne's not going to play in the NBA. Over under on games played in the NBA by Cameron Payne after today. The over under is set at 1.
I was listening to that Sean Highkin from Locked On Bulls talk, which is a good show. And
I do enjoy the Locked On Bulls.
He was saying, and you probably heard this, that Cameron Payne is not an NBA player from anything he's seen.
Yeah, and from anything I've seen, and from anything anyone's seen.
And like he got that hype when he was Russell Westbrook's dance partner or whatever, and like, oh, he's going to be the
next
going into the
mini
next
Russ.
Yeah, and it's
which turned into a mini Reggie Jackson, which turned into worse than Chris Dunn.
Well, now he's got this foot thing, and like, I mean, I honestly would not be surprised if he does not play another NBA game.
I hope not. That guy's terrible.
Here's the other thing I'll say then. Okay, so if he's not really a point guard, does that make Jerry Grant interesting?
I think it does. In the sense that something has to be interesting here because someone has to play minutes on this team. And I think Jerry Grant ends up being the most consistent point guard on this team. And Jerry Grant, while also bad, can put assists in, can shoot above 40%, can hit a three-pointer, can get about a steal a game, can hit free throws. I think Jerry Grant, if he becomes the starting point guard on this team and which the Bulls have no incentive to make him, and starts playing 32, 33 minutes a night, I think Jerry Grant's definitely relevant.
Oh, I'm with you there, and I actually think it happens.
I do too, but now we're once again talking about it happens if you're smart. If you're stupid, like the Atlanta Hawks and Chicago Bulls, why do you want to win games?
Well, and I'm not drafting him as that, but
are you drafting him?
Oh no,
we don't know if he's going to even play.
No, I'm not drafting him. I'm honestly drafting him. In a standard league, I might not draft anyone on this team in a head-to-head standard league. I might not pick.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
Other than Robin Lopez, if Robin Lopez is going to play, but Robin Lopez is the one old guy, man. Could they just tell Robin Lopez to piss off?
I think they're going to trade him for a pick, which they should. I'm going to have to disagree that no one on this team is draftable because there's one man who has my heart, who also is in Chia Pet form in my house. His name is Niko Mirotic.
Now, we can talk about this a good bit, so I'm excited. So go ahead, say what you want to say about Mirotic.
Niko Mirotic is going to get re-signed. It's whether it's the qualifying offer or a mid-range, mid-level type of contract or whatever. Niko Mirotic is going to play for the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls need Niko Mirotic to play well so he becomes an asset, so they can move him. Or if he plays so well, they'll want to re-sign him because he's a solid basketball player. Now, Niko Mirotic has been incredibly streaky, but also Niko Mirotic has played behind a lot of weird lineups for a really terrible coach who doesn't know how to use him.
But it's the same coach.
Yeah, I understand. But at the end of each year, Niko Mirotic goes on an insane run, proving that he can put together an incredibly good fantasy basketball season. I think it is worth taking a chance on Niko Mirotic simply because I don't know in what world, other than Fred Hoiberg's, he doesn't play over 30 minutes a night.
Is he their best player right now? If they sign him tomorrow, is he the best talent on the team at this moment?
I think you would have to say Dwayne Wade. There's an argument for Dwayne Wade when Dwayne Wade's playing well. When Dwayne Wade is healthy and has rest, Dwayne Wade's the best player on this team. If Zach LaVine was healthy, you can make the argument for Zach LaVine. Niko Mirotic is the best player on this team who will most likely finish the season on this team. It's terrible.
Here's what I'll say about Mirotic. I love Mirotic. I love the per minute stats Mirotic can produce. If the best thing for Mirotic is the thing that will not happen, it would be for him to sign anywhere else. He's going to play for Chicago. I have no faith in Fred Hoiberg giving him any more than 25 minutes a game. It's never happened. He's been Niko Mirotic. He's been that good. The minutes have been open. I mean, he got 24 minutes a game last year.
I mean, he's always played behind Taj Gibson. Once Taj Gibson was moved, his minutes did increase.
Okay.
But here's where you're right, and I usually say here's where you're wrong, but this time I'm gonna say here's where you're right. Fred Hoiberg, being the worst coach in the NBA, his rotation is: are you playing well? Are you playing well right when the game starts? Great, you're going to play longer. Are you shooting poorly as the game starts? Did you miss a few rotations? I don't even know if he knows what a rotation is, but did you miss a few shots, a few plays, make a few mistakes? You're not going to play the rest of the game. And Niko Mirotic is streaky, but Niko Mirotic needs the ball in his hand, and he needs time to get going when he's not coming out shooting lights out. He could be I really think Niko could be an amazing player if they put the ball in his hands and they run more of the offense through him. Really do. When you see him play in Europe, he looks so much better.
I'll say this. If someone played him in his optimal role, which is with the ball in his hands more, and played him 32 minutes a night, I think he could be a top 50 fantasy player.
I think he's 100% a top 50. Might be a top 40.
But that's not going to happen. Because Fred Hoiberg refuses to do it. I've said this for years. I don't think Fred Hoiberg hates Mirotic. I don't know why. I think he just can't stand Mirotic for some reason. Because this dude has deserved more minutes in all of Fred Hoiberg's tenure there, and he just never gets it.
It's embarrassing. It's terrible. I will be going to the games to chant for him to put Niko in, and how terrible.
If Niko comes back there, which is still an if at this point, but it's a 90% certainty.
It's a win. Yeah.
I'm not drafting him in a standard league. I've played this game. I know what happens. It's going to be 25 minutes. It's going to be.
I think it is foolish if he is available in your last round. And actually, I'm going to go past the 10th, 11th round. Right now, I'm going to go out to Yahoo. And we talked about whether these are reliable or not, and we don't think they are. But the average pick for Niko Mirotic right now is 136th. If he's anywhere after 110, I'm picking him up, and this is why. We talked about Bazemore being boring. Boring Bazemore, 100% guaranteed to be somewhere between the 110th and 90th player overall. Niko Mirotic on totals could be worse. Could be better. But his ceiling, Niko's ceiling is top 40. We just said it. His ceiling is top 40. And so I would much rather take him in those late rounds as a flyer, as a just in case it happens. Because if it happens, there's a high percentage chance you're going to be winning your league.
But what's his ceiling at 25 minutes a game?
That was not what we talked about. His ceiling, if he plays 32 minutes a game, which he won't, but if it happens, because I don't know what can happen on this team anymore, because I don't know what Fred Hoiberg's life is like. I'm going to find him. I'm going to find out where he lives. I'm going to go to his house, and I'm going to hold his family hostage until he plays Niko Mirotic 35 minutes a night. And that's I'm not going to do that. So don't call the police on this.
I'm with you that it's not the worst last pick in the world. I'm not making it because Fred Hoiberg has not given me any glimpse that he's going to play him more than 24 minutes a night. If he does that during training camp in the preseason and he starts hyping Mirotic and saying, I'm going to give Mirotic big minutes, I might take the cheese for the third year in a row. But the last 2 years, he's burnt me in standard leagues, and he's not doing it again until I see some reason why he should.
And I think that is a fair
because in 25 minutes
a fair opinion.
He's just, if he's standard league relevant, he's the worst player on your team relevant because he's just not getting enough minutes.
Even at 25 minutes a game, he's top 100.
Oh, I don't think so. I think he's like 130.
He's top 100.
140.
Okay, well, I disagree. A lot of disagreements in this episode. A good episode, I think. Is there anyone else? Usually we agree on most things. Anyone else on this team that you'd like to talk about?
Well, here's another thing. So say we get rid of Dwayne and we're looking for that kind of 2 guard, maybe small forward type. Who are we going with on that in that spot? Are we going with Denzel Valentine? Are we going with Zipser?
My friend Derek, who's sitting in the crowd, I think.
Your friend Derek?
My friend Derek. He sits in. He sometimes he goes to Bulls games, and I would assume they would just pick a random fan out of the crowd, and he might play. He used to play in high school.
So you're not interested in anyone else? Is that what you're telling me? Not even a sniff?
I'm interested in one player, Denzel Valentine, because this is the player that the Bulls front office has talked up, saying, "All right, we're leaning towards working with him and getting him more minutes and showing that he could, if he's an NBA player or not, making him a starter." I think Denzel Valentine starts the year at the 3 simply because he was where he was drafted in the 14th pick back in 2016. The Bulls invested in him, and I'm interested in him in the fact that if he plays 30-some minutes a game, he could scrape into that Kent Bazemore-esque place in the world of fantasy basketball. I'm interested in him because he could be fantasy relevant. But Kent Bazemore is definitely going to be the 100th player, and Denzel Valentine needs to be playing 30 minutes a game, and his ceiling, best case scenario, is probably like 100th best player.
He had a very fantasy-friendly game in college. It didn't really translate during his rookie year, but he didn't get a ton of minutes either. I'm kind of interested just to see if they're going to play him. And this is another one of those teams where, like, if someone gets big minutes, they could be standard league relevant, but it's hard to pin down who you want to say it's going to be the guy.
Yeah, we just don't know. Paul Zipser is probably someone I like him less from a fantasy perspective, but he's someone that has been mentioned as someone who could get starters minutes. Eventually, Lauri Markkanen is going to get starters minutes. I believe it's Lauri Markkanen, apparently. He looked not great in Summer League, but not terrible. But he looked very good in the Euros recently.
Yes, he's been lighting up the Eurobasket, and I saw the formerly man from Draft Express, now one of the men for ESPN on their draft coverage, wrote a very nice article about Markkanen and how well he's played in Eurobasket.
Yeah, even People Breakdown had a surprisingly long Lauri Markkanen video, which was great. I watched it and cried myself to sleep.
Here's the thing I'll say about Markkanen that I think everybody kind of got wrong, right? He got pegged as this just 3-point shooting tall man who's going to be a stretch 4 and no defense at all. I think the defense at Arizona didn't do him any favors. He's going to be all right in those defensive stats, and I think he's going to be an all right rebounder. That's not to say great. I don't say he's going to average 10 a game in the NBA at any point, but I think his defense and rebounding got a little bit undersold. And I've been saying that ever since, way back in the draft. I was touting him as a top 10 pick ever since I started looking at the draft coverage, and other people would say, oh, there's no way he's going to be terrible on defense. He's going to be a horrible rebounder, and I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, he's got a pretty impressive footwork for his size. He's quicker than people would think. And even playing against much, much better competition in the NBA, I think he's going to be fine. Fantasy-wise, though, the counting stats are not going to be there. He's going to be a very one-dimensional, almost best-case scenario Ryan Anderson-esque type player, and that's not going to happen this year. But eventually, near the end of the season, he's going to get, I would say, a lot more minutes. The problem with him is the same problem I see with Nico, is that I think they're both fairly versatile players. I think they do have very good court vision, and the ability to do more things than just stand in the corner and shoot, which is how Nico has been played on this Bulls team. And so if Hoiberg is an idiot and tries to play them both that way, you might not see really hardly anything from Lauri Markkanen, even in some of those really big leagues.
And real life NBA take that's not a hot take at all is that I don't think this team's ever going to do anything until they get a new coach.
Yeah, that's incredibly fair. So I don't want to be too depressed by the end of this podcast. Do you have anything else for the Chicago Bulls?
Good luck to them. It's going to be a long year.
All right. Thanks. It is certainly going to be a long year. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for tonight. We got through the bottom of the barrel. We finally got to the bottom of the barrel. So there's nowhere to go but up, right, Tyler?
There's actually some interesting teams I'm excited to talk about left.
We purposely left some of the more interesting teams for the latter half because we knew just talking about some of these teams was going to be so depressing.
Well, and I think too that some of these teams are still kind of waiting on the pieces to shake out, and we're getting close enough now where training camp's here, so they're pretty much just shook as they're going to be.
Yeah, and once preseason starts, we see the depth charts and we see how rotations are looking. Right, we're going to revisit probably most of these teams and just say, all right, do you want to change anything from your from what your preview is? So maybe kind of a weekly rundown of what we're learning from preseason rotations. So that will be good. I'll
give you a good example of that from last year, right? Nick Young the year before for the Lakers, played next to none. Literally, he played 19 minutes a game in 54 games and did not look like he was even going to be part of the rotation. And then, holy smokes, in preseason we saw him. He was playing. He was starting. They were touting his defense, and he went on to have a pretty decent season last year. It was mostly only streaming value in standard leagues, but in the deeper league, he was really valuable for those 13 points and the threes he provided. And so, I think we see that every year as guys kind of come out of nowhere and get a role that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, it happens 100% all the time, every single year on multiple teams. And those guys are always, you got to pay attention during that time, especially right before your draft, because things do change in October, and we have a shortened I think we have a shortened preseason. That's true, right?
Yeah, season starting earlier. I think that everyone's playing the same number of games this year. Next year there's one less game, but right. The actual time frame is shortened.
Yes. And so look forward to our preseason podcast. I'm looking forward to preseason. I kind of love preseason because NBA is just right around the corner. We're also going to be doing some strategy podcasts, probably bringing back our friend Mark Roberts to talk about kind of how to the best way to set up a league or what the best way to approach a head-to-head draft or a head-to-head season and the best way to approach a roto season, and maybe debate on what's the proper settings for a league. I will literally take anyone down on adding ridiculous categories. I have seen more people mention that quad doubles are a category in their league this preseason or this offseason than any other offseason in my entire life. If you're playing with quad doubles, just delete the league right now.
Even double doubles and triple doubles. When does this happen? There's how many triple doubles every year? 5?
So stupid. So first off, you're already counting those. You're already counting those stats. So you're already getting rewarded for those things. And so to get a 1-0 triple double and lose a week because you had a better team in a better week, but you lost one category because one person had a triple double on the other team. for the week, great. That's a dumb way of playing fantasy basketball, and I will take anyone to task on that.
I tend to agree.
Send your tweets, your angry tweets, to at Watch the Boxes. Then that would be for me. And Tyler, what is your Twitter handle?
You can find me at Watsy4444.
That is 4 4s in case, just when 3 4s aren't enough. 4 4s. And so we got a few people who are interested in our hashtag basketball watching the boxes ultimate fantasy league 2017. If you are interested in joining our listener league, tweet at us or tweet at #basketball, which is the hashtag basketball main account, and we will get you invited to our listener league.
Shout out to the dude who just tweeted me yesterday.
Yeah, shout out. Well, no one ever tweets me. Everybody tweets you all the time.
That's because they can't remember your Twitter, but mine, it sticks out.
Oh God, you're probably right. That's so depressing. So yeah, I think that's it. You got anything to plug?
No, I mean, if you want those custom rankings, they're actually Mark's rankings. I won't take any credit for them, but you can tweet me or Mark, and we'll get it sent out to you.
Yeah, that's Mark Roberts with a C, just like Marc Gasol.
Oh, Mark F. Roberts. Don't forget the F.
With an F and then Roberts, spelled like you think Roberts is spelled. At least I hope. Yeah, I think that's it. We will be back at this with the rest of the NBA, and hopefully it's a little bit more optimistic than these two teams. That's it. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.